Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing really good today. I'm excited to hop in, and today we're going to be talking about the EA Sports and EA Games split and what it's going to be doing for the Battlefield franchise. So, let's hop right in. This randomly came out in the afternoon of, hey, there's something happening with EA right now. And EA Sports, it was all under, it was just called EA Games, I believe. That was the big overarching banner for everything. Yeah. But it kind of was weird because EA Sports was its whole beast over there. That was basically its own company, even from internal perspective. They kind of just operate as their own thing.
Yeah. I believe they even have an EA Sports Twitter and stuff like that, whereas they don't have an EA shooter Twitter.
Yeah.
That's not really how it works. So it is it's always been its own little entity that, I guess we never thought about because it was just under EA. So it's kind of never put any thought into it, but it is kind of weird looking at it now where it's it's kind of makes sense for them to split. I never thought about it, but now that I've seen it, it's kind of okay. I can see what you're doing.
Yeah, so this is all in an effort, at least internally, of trying to keep the different internal focuses. So what they're saying, our boy Andrew Wilson says this: we're building the future of interactive entertainment on a foundation of legendary franchises and innovative new experiences, which represents massive opportunities for growth. Okay, buddy. Tell me something without telling me something.
Yeah, literally.
A lot of people
tell me some words that do not equate to literally anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I'm currently no smarter than I was 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, I thought that's what you did before, but a lot of people are theorizing that there's a few things here. One is EA Sports has always been its own little island over there. It's been doing its own stuff. That is about what we expect. And then when you look at the EA other studios, so everything else basically will be under the EA Entertainment banner. There's a couple things here. They wanted to kind of visually say, okay, yes, this is sports, our money printing machine. It's going to be calculated different on our books than the EA other stuff. But some theorizing is happening that basically the EA Entertainment is going to also lean into TV shows and movies like PlayStation has been super successful with. Xbox has been marginally successful with its Halo show. But they're really heavily investing, these big companies, into leveraging the IP in video games as well as outside of video games. But we actually have kind of a breakdown in this announcement around our boy Vince Zampella.
Yeah, it was interesting to see his name pop up. I guess, I didn't expect that, but he's a big boy in the industry.
He's basically got promoted again. He was head of Battlefield, but now he's just taking over EA Entertainment. So Lori Millet previously was EA's COO, will take over as the EA President of Entertainment, Technology, and Central Development. And she will work closely with Vince Zampella and other well-known executives. So basically, without officially getting the big boy title, Vince Zampella is getting a lot more responsibility when it comes to overseeing most of what EA does when it comes to Apex, Respawn, DICE, Ripple Effect, Ridgeline Games, Full Circle, which is Skate, Motive, all of the different studios. He's getting a lot more oversight of now, from what we're hearing.
Yeah, which I kind of have two thoughts on it. As one is he's the man to have in charge of anything, really. He's up there with anyone in gaming.
Yeah, he's done everything in gaming at this point. He created Call of Duty.
So he's any of those areas of the company would definitely want him in charge. The only thing that concerns me is like I hope he's not spread too thin. I hope this doesn't take away from his impact on Battlefield, even on like Apex and anything else that they're doing. I hope that he's not like taken away from those projects so much that he's not actually really impacting anywhere, because he's just slightly, he's dipping his toe in each little thing, but therefore he can't really drastically impact any of them. So that's my only concern about it, is that, and mostly just, this is the Battlefield show. We're talking about Battlefield, mostly just concerned about Battlefield. I don't really care about the rest of them, to be honest.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, I was, and like you are the same, we've been so keen for him to be at the helm of the Battlefield franchise, and I'm also just now a bit scared that he's kind of been taken away from that. I'm sure he'll still obviously be involved, but like to what extent? That's the only part that worries me. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But then also, I don't know, in that type of role, maybe you can really balance a lot of different things, because obviously he'd have so many people in each of those like studios and compartments of EA helping him as well. So it's not like he just has to pay attention to literally everything. He'd have people breaking down each thing for him, like someone reporting to him from each area. So yeah, hopefully he can do it. But I'm slightly concerned that we kind of had him to ourselves, and now he's now he's taken to
he's
all
ours.
The EA stuff. Yeah, us Battlefield fans deserve him more than anyone else.
Yeah,
surely.
But it just goes to show like that Vince Zampella is a very good force when it comes to Battlefield, like considering he is so heavily involved in the operations now within EA and within the processes that they're looking to really like take into consideration.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And I think, like you said, there's benefits and downsides from that. Like, will he stay as focused on Battlefield as he maybe would have been previously while in the head of Battlefield role? Maybe, maybe not. We definitely haven't seen anything of like note from his efforts as Battlefield yet, because there is not a new Battlefield for him to have effect on.
Yeah. So, and that's the hard part, is that now I feel like we won't really be able to tell if he's had an impact, because we never got the sample of like, this is what a Vince Zampella Battlefield game looks like. Mm-hmm. And we may actually kind of never get that. I'm sure, obviously, like I said, he'll still be involved, but we'll never get like the Vince Zampella Battlefield. Now it'll just be the Battlefield that he slightly overlooked. So it's going to be hard to tell if the next game is a flop, for example. It's hard to tell whether that was because he didn't do a good enough job or because he wasn't involved enough, or vice versa. If it does really well, we might all just be like, oh, it's, Vince is doing what he always does, when he might not have even had an impact on it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but I feel like now we actually can't really tell whether he'll have an impact or not, unless, like I said, he's still heavily involved, then maybe. But yeah, I'm not too sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's definitely interesting to see this level of like movement. But they do call out that much of the current structure will remain intact. This is from the IGN article. Zampella is going to continue to lead Respawn and Battlefield, and Samantha Ryan will do BioWare, Max's Full Circle, and Motive. So they are separating it out a little bit. But I wonder like what that like depth of like creation he's going to have, because I definitely think like his level of experience within the game industry is almost unmatched. Like he's been able to have such a prolific history and just like career so far in the game industry. So I'm very fascinated to see where that ends up going and what this will ultimately look like for Battlefield. Because it definitely seems like with stuff like this, with just the huge announcements that they had, was it earlier this year? Maybe it was like last year. I can't remember like what the actual time frame was, but they had the whole announcement with him in that role in the first place. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Interesting times because we never. It's almost like the changes have all happened so quickly that it's like constant change, which I also am slightly nervous about that too. Like I think constantly changing up the hierarchy can be damaging. It can be really good too. So it's going to be impossible to tell. But
well, I feel like there's going to be a delay as people find out like what their roles are, what the roles are going to actually be. I think there's a chance that could delay some of the efforts that they're taking.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like, can it have it could have internal impacts on not just Battlefield but just all games. Like this restructuring, maybe all the games are going to either have some sort of delay, or maybe that they could launch at the normal time but have like a negative impact because there might have been a period where the leadership wasn't really set, and it can kind of cause a lot of issues with that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and it'll be probably a bad look for EA if this happens and then all their next titles are kind of flops because there was some issues in the middle. So yeah, interesting times ahead, that's for sure.
And they definitely said that in the past with that last announcement that they're looking to heavily basically invest in Battlefield as a franchise. Like going forward, they want it to be a bigger part of their portfolio. They want it to be a bigger reason for existing within the structure, like financially. So I think that's...
which is interesting because they said it was only 10% of their...
Yeah. Guys, it's fine. It's only 10%.
Yeah. But we also want to make it more than 10%, so just bear with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like, this is a very interesting topic to think about. Like, how is this going to be put into place when we see Battlefield? Do you expect that we're going to see any repercussions for this anytime soon?
I sure hope not. I sure hope that it doesn't. There was all he was the head of Battlefield, and this game's kind of like in the middle to end of its lifespan. And I hope that with him, quote unquote leaving, he's not really leaving, but he's just changing roles. I hope it doesn't like get the game to the point where they like, okay, we got a new management and all this, and the game's nearly done. Let's just end it here and we'll start fresh. I hope they don't do one of those situations like they tend to just always do for some reason. But yeah, again, it's hard to tell because it's just hard to tell what his role might not at all change for Battlefield. It might just be he's just adding other things.
Yeah, it feels like it might be more of like a consultant role, possibly.
Yeah. So, and then that also depends on like what his role, because we don't really know what his role.
Yeah, he's as head of Battlefield. What does that mean?
Yeah, like is he the new, for example, Mr. Battlefield? Like, is he taking that role? But then he actually was a senior developer. So and I don't believe Vince actually these days anyway develops the games. He's more of like the leader, and he's like almost like a director, more than anything, which is ironic to say because design directors are developers. But I don't know what
we've talked about this before. It's complicated.
Game design, they tend to just put weird titles on things that just don't really make sense sometimes. But it's hard to tell because we don't necessarily know what his role was. So he may have even been a consultant for Battlefield. That might be the head of Battlefield. He's just the guy that they check with for all their decisions, which is technically just a consultant. And so, it might not change his role at all, or it might drastically take away from his time that he can spend on Battlefield. Like, it's just... It's really, really hard to know, but I'm sure that they wouldn't, like... Someone like that, you would think they wouldn't spread them too thin. You'd think that they're not going to waste... Because I don't care how talented anyone is, you can't... If you spread too thin, you are just useless. Like, you can't... No one can do a million things at 100% efficiency. So you'd think that pretty much the most talented, important person that works at EA, they wouldn't just be like, here, do every single thing, and therefore you'll actually do nothing because you can't. No one can do that. So I'd like to think that they would be smart enough to go, okay, if we spread him too thin, it's not going to even help anyone. So let's just give him some really key roles, but not like overdo it, and then he can be at like peak efficiency. So yeah, it's. I guess it's all speculation at this point, but it'll be very interesting to watch, and I hope we hear more. I hope we. I don't like how the gaming industry is so secretive with all this type of stuff. I mean, they've announced obviously, but they don't. Even with the title head of Battlefield, we don't know people's roles. We don't know what they do. So I just wish there was a bit more like transparency. Not that at the end of the day, not that someone's role in a company is necessarily my business. I'm not entitled to know that, but it's like, I don't know. I just think that the gaming industry is so secretive and it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help us or them. Like they're shooting themselves in the foot with that stuff too. It's not just me wanting to know more. It actually helps them too. So hopefully that changes, but I don't know. It's been like that forever. So I don't know if there's a change in it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely always like that, like almost like secretive mysticism that I think that they kind of pride themselves on a little too drastically sometimes. I think that there's a level of, it definitely makes sense for them not to tell us, the general audience, because it might not affect us. But I think it would definitely be helpful to kind of realize what works, what doesn't work when it comes to what does it mean for this franchise going forward? Like, how is it actually going to change our interactions with the game? Is it going to ultimately be good for the game? Obviously, they're trying to make the best decisions that they can to make as much money as they possibly can. But, like, is it going to be as actually effective for us as as players? Like, will we be able to see these ramifications, and are they going to be ultimately good? Obviously, are we the people to be wanting that information? Not necessarily, but it'd be nice to have that information.
Yeah, I just think it doesn't. Like you said, there are certain things that like it probably would hurt us to know. There's certain things in any industry that like you may as well just keep to yourself because it's not going to help anyone. But I just think that the more that they share about stuff that they can share, obviously if it's like, you know, there's certain like legal things they can't share, or there's certain things that if they do share it, we will get expectations that are way too high or whatever. But just, anything that can be shared, share it. It just helps everyone with understanding the industry more. And then I think that will really, like, the more you educate players on how games are made and what goes into it and all that, that only makes them more like forgiving if something goes wrong. But they know how hard it is to make games. They'll go, okay, like, fair enough, there's a big bug in the game, but like we now know how hard it is to make a video game, so we'll kind of give you some leeway. How it currently is, people kind of just think, I think the general audience just thinks that like you just make a game and it's just good. That's just their understanding of it. And then when there is a big bug in the game, they go like, oh, this is, you know, how have you managed to let that slip? Why did they catch
this? Why did they fix it?
And so, I just think that needs to change on both sides. It's like not even just all their fault. It's also like because a lot of people are uneducated on it, which I guess stems from them not telling us. So it's probably more their fault than ours. But like, it also comes down to the players just jumping to conclusions and stuff like that. And I just think the more transparency, the better. I don't know why they don't share that type of stuff. But whether it changes or not, I'm not that confident. I won't lie.
Yeah. As we've been talking about, I think that the teams that they put on the broken games to fix the broken games are great. That team, they've gone through the trenches, they've put in their time, they've put in the effort, and they're able to really like deliver on stuff. I was looking up in preparation for the podcast today, I was looking up some news articles on 2042, and a lot of them are like, hey, I hopped into Battlefield 2042 again, and this game's great, or they've been able to turn around a broken game, or like there's so many of these now headlines and these news stories about these games are they had problems at launch, but going back and playing them now, like they definitely showcase. Yeah, they can put in the effort and they can make a good game. Like at this point with season 5, I feel like they've really started hitting their stride with what Battlefield 2042 is. I feel like they've finally hit an identity point with the games.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it's like this. It's the same thing every time. Look at every Battlefield, with really the exception of Battlefield 1, which weirdly had like the opposite. But all of them launch rough, and then they just get fixed, and they're all pretty decent. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird that like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird dynamic with Battlefield like that. It doesn't make sense, but it's how it's been for as long as I can remember. I can't really remember a good launching Battlefield, to be honest.
It's been a long time, if ever. Yeah. In terms of like your hopes for Battlefield, like going forward and surviving and really thriving, like what do you see this like? What's the best outcome here?
The best outcome really is that he doesn't get taken away too much from the role, and if he can just have his say on the franchise. It's not like everything he says has to go. Like, I'm sure he's not like that either. I don't think he would be the type of person who's like, no, I'm saying this, it has to be like that, unless it's something he's obviously very passionate about. But he seems like he'd be the type of leader who would very strongly say, like, this is how I think it should be, but I'm open to suggestions from all the other developers and all that. If he can just have his hands on the franchise, then I really just don't see it going poorly. That doesn't mean it's going to be the best game ever, but I don't see a Vince Zampella Battlefield after the hardships of this game, because they've obviously learnt from this game too. Those in combination, just the like experience gained by a rough launch, and then bringing in realistically the number one first person shooter like human that you can have in charge of a team.
Yeah.
Those two in combination, I just don't see it failing. I don't necessarily, like I said, it doesn't mean it's going to be the greatest Battlefield ever, but
it's got some good it's got some good head starts. Like the person that created your biggest competitor is now working on, and not just working on, heading your efforts.
Yeah.
That's
after
good.
Not only like doing it at that company, but then also going and starting Respawn, who then launched the next biggest.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the next biggest, but like Apex is obviously a huge game. It's not like he just did it and got lucky at Call of Duty. He's done it again. He just spawned a franchise out of thin air that realistically competed with Call of Duty. Like Apex for a while was actually
screwed over by. I'm thinking about like Titanfall, but Titanfall with Titanfall 2's launch period was just awful. But like you said, Apex.
Yeah, and like the fact that he's done it there with a non-established franchise. I understand Apex is based on the Titanfall franchise, but like you just said, they were really good games, but it didn't like sell that well. It wasn't like a big, huge game. So realistically, Apex, in my eyes, isn't like a Titanfall successor based off this huge, big game. It's pretty much a new franchise to me. I didn't even know. I played Titanfall, and when they launched Apex, I didn't even know it was based on Titanfall. Yeah. I was just like, oh, this is just a new
Most people don't even know about Titanfall, and they'll play Apex like 24/7.
Yeah, so the fact that he's done it with that game that is just, essentially out of thin air, if he's doing it with Battlefield that has always been like the next competitor to Call of Duty, he's got a massive head start there, and he's also done it multiple times now. So I just, my only real hope from all this is that they just don't take him away from it. I get that for all the other games they're probably thinking the same thing. Oh, this guy did all this great stuff, let's get him on all the games. Like, I understand that, but he's not, if he's in charge of, say, I don't know, games that aren't shooters, for example, he might not have the same impact. Like, he's not. I mean,
I feel like they're going to try to keep him on just Apex and Battlefield.
Yeah.
But
I hope
it does.
so.
It seems like they're also trying to basically consult with them on like what the direction they want to go is.
Yeah. I think it even said, I don't know if it was that same article or an article, like a quote that I saw from an article on Twitter when they announced this stuff, that he was just heading Battlefield,
Battlefield,
Apex, and Star Wars.
Apex. Yeah, that I forgot about Star Wars, but yeah, I think those are the main three.
Hopefully that just is the case, and then like maybe heading those areas, and then literally just being a consultant where they just even just a company asking him not even about the game, but like what's his thoughts on their plans for a live
you think we should do
service
this? Yeah. You think we should add loot boxes? And he's going to be like, punch them in the face, punch them, and be like, no.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then that makes me feel a bit better that he would just, actually have an impact at those franchises that they mentioned, or like, Battlefield, Apex, and Star Wars. And then just be a consultant, just kind of be there to like bounce ideas off, so that he's not necessarily planning and making those games. He's more just like, hey, do you think this new style of battle pass that we're going to try works? And he can go, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like, he's done multiple battle passes in multiple games, so he's got the idea. So if that's the case, then I feel a bit more confident. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'd hope that they don't like see the good work he's doing, and then, like you said, kind of go, oh, well, okay, let's also use him on this other game as the head of that too.
This guy's awesome. Let's add him to everything.
We don't want them simping about him like we do. That's pretty much.
Calm down, guys. That's our
EA
job.
become our level of Vince Zampella simps, then that's not good, because we only need Battlefield and Star Wars. I like Apex, but I don't really care about it. We just need the Battlefield and Star Wars areas to simp over Vince as much as us, but the other areas need to stay and keep hands off, I think.
Yeah.
He's all ours.
He's mine. Yeah, I think these decisions will ultimately become great, and I feel like they lost a couple people too. I think they lost their chief financial officer. And they have the chief experiences officer is retiring. So so it seems like they're going through a lot internally, and maybe the chief financial officer leaving is a good thing.
That might be the best change they've made so far. I think so.
Is this the guy that said loot boxes are great?
I think I don't know the exact role, but I think it was him. I remember I don't know. I remember hearing CFO, unless it was a different guy. But I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. So he can enjoy his retirement. That's all I'll say there. Nicest way to put it. Enjoy your retirement, buddy. Don't come back, please.
Have a great time. I hope to never see you again, at least in this way. Yeah, I think I'm hopeful for these changes. I think anything with like a company like this, EA is so massive. I think the decision to have them be EA Sports and EA Games to be separate things, I think is good. I feel like that's going to give the different teams a lot more focus now, which is something they desperately needed, I feel.
Yeah, 100%. They just need to, like you said, it's such a big company. When you look at, say, like Bethesda, right? They're huge, but they just make Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and now Starfield. 3 games. Or 3 franchises.
Yeah.
EA makes like freaking 100 different things. And realistically, they're the same. I think it's a bit bigger than Bethesda, but like they're kind of in that same like size bracket, I would say. Maybe slightly bigger, but like it's not like comparing a indie studio to EA. Like Bethesda's still freaking huge, but they just stick to what they know. And EA definitely, not to say they don't know what they're doing, but they just definitely cover a lot of different areas. They have like multiplayer games and sports games and like all kinds of single player games and like The Sims and just everything. They've got literally every genre you could possibly think of.
Yeah.
So yeah, splitting them into like their own entities is probably a good thing, so that you just have like it's not like an ever growing massive entity. Like the sports section just stays as the sports section. That's, to me, it sounds like a good idea. So, and I guess like I think I always just thought it was anyway. To be honest, I think I just kind of thought like EA
that's
Sports.
how
was
we
its own
all
thing.
like thought about it.
Yeah, like I actually now I'm like, oh, EA Sports wasn't actually
Oh wow,
technically
interesting.
anything. Like it was just called EA Sports on the
EA Sports.
yeah.
It's in
That's
the game.
why that whole intro, like that makes it seem like it's its own thing, because they don't have a freaking, when you load up Survivor, they don't have like EA single player. Like they
EA
don't do
games.
that.
It's in the
Yeah, like-
game.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's probably just kind of always been like that. Now it's more just like official. So maybe it won't even really change all that much, but probably like moving forward, it's definitely the right thing, because yeah, the business is only going to grow as it, as we go. Gaming is always getting bigger. EA is only going to get bigger too. So it's probably the right decision.
The big machine of EA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that these changes are going to be good things.
Yeah.
I totally feel the same way of like, oh, I thought they were already separate things. But the fact that they're changing the thing to like EA Entertainment, there's rumors about them like really leaning in on their franchises that they have, like making the decisions to really heavily focus on Battlefield, on shooters, on the variety of different games, and have a whole different organization focused on just the sports games, which is a completely different monster than a live service Battlefield or a live service Apex or anything else. The indie games will also be under that EA Entertainment, and that's not even thinking about like, what if we see a Battlefield TV show or a Battlefield movie? Like that could be on the board now with these changes of like, okay, no, they're looking at things beyond games with the name entertainment.
Yeah, the fact that it's not called EA Games is definitely interesting. Entertainment to me is like, it's kind of all things like Sony. Sony's not, they obviously massive in the gaming industry, but they make movies and they also make like electronics and a million things. And it's like kind of the at least the entertaining side of it is Sony Entertainment. So it's kind of that same thing where like maybe EA is going to get into that sort of stuff, which it will be interesting to see how that goes. I don't know. I'd never really pictured EA as that type of company to do like that type of stuff. But I don't see any reason why these companies can't do that. Like gaming and say like TV shows and movies, they're not drastically different in terms of obviously the storytelling and stuff like that.
TVs and games
Obviously,
for sure, because you have that
like,
longer storytelling.
Yeah, that's like, writing a story for a game or a show probably isn't drastically different, other than just like, the way that it's played out in a game is obviously very different, but the overall story is about the same length. I would say a show like, look at The Last of Us, about the same amount of hours that it took to play the game. It was almost like the exact same thing. They obviously had a lot of differences in there, but like, it was pretty damn similar. And so the writing, and they even said, I don't know if you listened to the podcast for The Last of Us, but like,
it's so good.
Craig Mazin even said, like, I didn't even want to change stuff because what Neil Druckmann wrote was good enough. What's the point in changing it? Like, it's already it's written for TV already when it was written for a game. So it's a prime example right there. So it'd be interesting to see if they do go down that path. And the name EA Entertainment definitely sounds like either they're planning it or even just open to it. Maybe in 10 years it'll happen. But yeah, I don't know. Very interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, we will watch this career with great interest. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, but we'll see how it goes. But I think with that, let us know your thoughts. Do you think this is actively going to change anything? Is it going to be possibly something that could affect the next Battlefield game? Could it just make this game last longer as they try to work out the details behind the scenes? Let us know in the comments below or contact@uplinkpodcast.com. And hey, check out Sammy Boy's channel. He's got one on Battlefield as well as Star Wars and maybe some other things around the corner. We'll see with these logo changes he's making. I'll just say, the black and white logo, chef's kiss, bro.
Yeah, I didn't think of that for a long time, and then I just was like, hey, let me see what this looks like, and now I really, really enjoy it. So if anyone is trying to design logos, just do some stuff that you probably think won't look good, and it might look good. Because when I thought of it, I was like, I don't know. And then, I don't mind it.
When I saw that change, I was like, whew, man, that's nice. But yeah, check out the different channels. If you want to watch a Star Wars podcast, my wife and I do a podcast on Star Wars, 2 topics each week. Everything you need to know about Star Wars in 30 minutes or less. And hey, as always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.